Good news yesterday when the Fed decided to pause its interest rate hiking.
Yep. What did you do to celebrate, Dan?
I played golf.
Oh yeah,
hmm
hitting a little white ball.
Um,
But what does it
Here's
mean?
a Wall Street Journal editorial that summarizes where we're at. Kind of. The labor market remains strong, which the Fed believes is inflationary, although the unemployment rate is ticking upward, which the Fed believes is disinflationary. Workers seem to know they're not gaining ground. Inflation-adjusted average weekly earnings fell 0.7% year over year, which is an improvement, but shows inflation still hasn't slowed enough to allow households to catch up. So while we're pausing rate hiking this month, you can expect more rate hikes in months to come. Make sense?
Got it.
Give you
Good night.
a roadmap
mic.
on what to do with your money. For more on this, try to bring some clarity to this rather opaque picture. Pleased to be joined by our friend Christopher Whalen, investment banker, chairman of Whalen Global Advisors, LLC, author of Ford Men, From Inspiration to Enterprise, and editor for the Institutional Risk Analyst. He wears many hats. Chris Whalen, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. So, I don't know. What are we to take away from yesterday's inaction and the varied and layered pronouncements surrounding it?
Well, the Fed has, I think, done what everyone expected, which was this pause is a function of two things. I think, one, the Fed realizes that they went too fast and that they caused three good-sized banks to tip over in the first quarter. These banks were not exemplars by any means, but there was nothing particularly wrong with them. So, you look at that wreckage, and you also look at the complicated mess that Chairman Powell and his colleagues have to manage in terms of their balance sheet, which is, got all sorts of things going on. And you ask yourself, do we really need the Fed to be the center of attention all the time? I think there's a market fatigue issue here where we would all kind of like to just go back to focusing on the economy, earnings, and things like that. But instead, we have to focus on the circus at the Fed every month. And media travel to Washington, the whole bit. It's quite an enterprise, and it becomes the dominant theme in the narrative for the whole country, at least from a business perspective. So I think it begs a lot of questions. If we have a Republican government in Washington soon, I hope they can follow up with even, proposals from Mike Pence, for God's sake. He actually authored a proposal to basically have the Fed focus on price stability and get them out of the economic growth game, which I think would be good.
Yeah, right. I mean, Vivek Ramaswamy said the same. I mean, many other commentators have talked about the emphasis being price stability and not, the practicing the mysticism that they attempt to practice. But so, I mean, So
it is. You characterize it exactly right. It is mysticism because they're involved in gauging confidence. It's like gauging liquidity, right?
Yeah.
You can talk about it, but you can't measure it objectively. So how do you make public policy based on that? And the answer is they lie to us. As Orwell said after working for the BBC, even when the propaganda is true, it's still a lie, right? And I think that, the Fed, unfortunately, is our version of Gosplan. It's our little security blanket that says, oh, someone's in charge. Someone is watching over us. But the reality is there isn't. This is just a chaotic mess called America that somehow manages to wend its way.
So the Fed's increased, rates 10 consecutive months, 10 consecutive times, I should say. But we have a pause now, but they said they're going to be two more rate increases this year. So what does it mean for consumers? Are we ever going to see any relief in the grocery store, at the gas pump?
No, most of those issues are structural, Amy. They have to do with the war in Ukraine. They have to do with other things. And I think also that many vendors, many providers of services had for so many years been beaten down on price and had to give concessions, essentially absorbing the inflation. The box of cereal got smaller if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah. No, I hear you.
So when they got a chance to take back some of that during COVID, they did. You've seen prices for every day. And is there any, prospect that sandwich is going to go back to $6 or $5? No, it's at $12 now, and it's going to stay there. So that's the reality in cities like New York and Chicago. And, it's absurd when we see the progressives talking about, like, we were about to do more rent control legislation here in New York, as though this would help. And the reality is that we can't make these cities affordable. We should be resettling people into other communities, frankly. Subsidize their travel, but get them out of New York, There's no way for middle-income people to live in that city in a decent fashion. I'm sorry. And it's dangerous. So when you combine all of that, you say to yourself, why aren't we helping people leave instead of talking about breathing life into these busted models? It's funny. In a way, we're going back to the pre-auto era, thanks to COVID. Working at home, that's called localization, right? We've all read about it. And I think Americans would love to go back to a more local society. It wasn't, I'd sit in a car for 4 hours every day. I mean, think about people who moved out of Atlanta, which is a great town, right? But no development coordination at all. You have 5 counties that meet in the center of the city, and they all do stuff for themselves, right? And the traffic is apocalyptic.
Yeah.
There's no way to get around there except in a car. So, that's the future. We're still tied to the automobile, no matter what we do.
Yeah. The future is here. It's just unevenly distributed, as
It's
William
Chicago.
Gibson said. Yeah.
I wrote about it in the Ford book. Why do we have all these cities on the Great Lakes? They're beautiful. But it's because people came down the St. Lawrence Seaway, and we don't do that anymore. We don't need wagons anymore, right? So we build cars in South Carolina.
Well, we may be going to wagons in California before too long. We may be going backwards, but yeah, your point is well taken. But but give us a picture of the market, because the market and people, where people should be putting their money. You've had 7 weeks of positive returns on the indexes. You've got the new home market is running strong. The percentage of new homes as part of the whole housing market has been steady for years at about 15%. It's now running at 30%. Home builder stocks are performing well. Things are going well. Why am I out of the market? Where have I been? What have I not been missing? I should have been listening to Joe Biden. This is a strong economy, right?
Well, you're right. And let me, in the housing context, because that's a good topic for everyone that can understand it. 7% mortgages aren't the end of the world, is what
Clearly.
We're finding out.
Yeah.
Now, we see a light market in terms of volumes today because we pulled so many sales into the future, or from the future into today in 20 and 21. So we did a lot of business that normally would have been done this year. We just low interest rates pulled all those transactions into the present. So we're going to live for a couple of years with light volumes in housing, but we're still going to do a lot of purchase mortgages for first-time home buyers and move-up buyers, not so much refinancing. That's the market today. But it's okay. The sad and difficult part is that we have to downsize the industry to fit, and that is ongoing. We're going to get rid of 3 or 4 more good-sized lenders, the non-bank lenders, in the next few months. They will buy one another, that sort of thing. And the banks, too. The banks, in the post-QE, post-Fed largesse world are going to downsize and consolidate. I think you'll see some mid-sized, regional banks merge. So, but to your question, I just took a pile of money off the table on NVIDIA because the market went crazy over AI.
Yeah, right.
I had bought the stock in 21, listening to Jimmy Cramer. I got to do full disclosure. And I had 150.
You listened to Jim Cramer and you made money? Oh my God!
Oh my God!
Are you the first one? Are you the only one in America?
I think so. Nah, he's an entertainer. If you understand what he's in your business, okay? He's in the same business as all of us.
Well,
but occasionally he does give you good ideas. And the craziness, the latest hype is AI. We forgot about crypto.
Broken clock.
Now, yeah, it's like The Matrix. We're all doing a sequel of the movie. It's great. So I just think that, I wouldn't hopeful not to be in the market, but I think you have to realize that we are still in this post-COVID, post-Fed world where the amount of liquidity they put into the system is still mind-boggling. And that's what you see in stocks. You also have to remember China's off the table now. We're not investing in China. So a huge amount of assets is going into other sectors. And this is why we're buying banks. Even though banks are still going to have a tough time this year, the managers want to own them, and they will. They want to be fully invested because that's how they get paid.
So we'll have some problems. Some banks will fail. We'll have some problems in the office, the commercial real estate, the office space market, and so on and so forth. But we'll muddle along at relatively low growth, and the stock market will, continue to tick up.
Yeah, the economy may ignore the Fed. See, the Fed, to Amy's question, right, their problem is mostly structural. Sure, can they slow down demand by raising short-term interest rates? Yes. That's really how you hit the economy, the productive economy, because that's where we finance it, right? But 7% mortgages is not going to be the end of the world.
But you don't see any more whipsawing then in the near future. This is we're going to be sort of like I said, muddling along, more or less, up or above the line, but more or less muddling along.
In the background, among some of the more respected economists, there has been a fierce amount of criticism of the Fed for going big. When they decided to take the Ben Bernanke model and add steroids, right, in 2019 and 20, they did things to the market that will take a decade to fix. The pricing in the bond market is still screwed up today. We still don't have what I would call normal prices in munis and many other very important markets. And remember the housing market, the forward market for mortgages, is the second largest market in the world after treasuries. That's how we hedge interest rate risk. So when the Fed messes with that and you're running a bank, right, life can get a little strange. Think about Janet Yellen calling the bank.
I don't want to think about
find out about whether they still have deposits, okay? That's how the Treasury and the regulators were managing the crisis in the age of AI. They were on the phone, okay, to dozens and dozens of banks. I'm totally serious. There's no electronic connection with the major regulators that lets them see end-of-day balances at federally insured banks. None of that.
Yes, I understand. By the way, is Ben Bernanke, is he still married to Celine Dion? Or is that, am I confusing him with something? Chris Whalen, investment banker, chairman of Whalen Global Advisors, author of Ford Men from Inspiration to Enterprise, and editor for the Institutional Risk Analyst. Chris, thanks as always.
Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Is to minimize your stress and maximize your bottom line. Did you know you can set your selling price and closing date before ever going on the market? Don't go it alone. For over 35 years, the Wexler Group has been minimizing stress for homeowners. Choose one of their top selling programs. Know your closing date and sale price before ever going on the market. The Instant Offer program allows you to sell fast. No hassle, no sign, no online photos, and no cleanup or clean out. With the Guaranteed Sale program, you'll explode onto the market, going for top dollar while already knowing your bottom line and preferred closing date. Either way, know your closing date and